Ladies and gentlemen, good evening and welcome to the Pies Presser. We are quite simply prelim bound. It's time to talk all things black and white. One of these weeks again, huh? I feel like we've had these weeks too close to each other in recent times, but it's for the best, right? It's for all the right reasons. So we have the final round against Melbourne, and then we have the week off, the pre-finals bye is what they call it. And then we go to Adelaide, we win the qualifying final in a convincing fashion, and now we will have to work through this week where we don't have footy, black and white footy at AFL level, not even VFL level really. But the positive is we are in a prelim. So we sort of get to sit back and relax a little bit. We get to watch Gold Coast and Brisbane bash each other, hopefully bash each other into oblivion, and that will work to our favour. Some of the questions being thrown around is who do we prefer out of the two sides going into this prelim? Look, if we want to be stoic and talk about what's in our control, it's just beating whoever's there on the day. But if we want to make a meal out of it and dive into it, for me, what did I say last night? I said both teams proposed their own different sort of obstacles for the Pies to work through. You look at Brisbane, okay, they don't have Lachie Neale, but I think they've got enough depth in the wings, in their forward line to bring some of those players through the midfield. Now, I know they aren't Lachie Neale, two-time Brownlow medalist and premiership player, but these players are hanging out for an opportunity like a Zach Bailey, like a Ashcroft, Cam Rayner, who, besides those two dubious free kicks that were awarded to him, shame, but other than that, he really had minimal impact against Geelong. So credit to Geelong for taking that assignment very seriously, and with the outcome, they pretty much, it worked to a T. Mark O'Connor did a massive number on Cam Rayner, so maybe we can take something out of the Chris Scott playbook if we were to come up against the Brisbane. But then, as I said yesterday, I think Gold Coast are a scary proposition as well. And anyone you come up against in this top 8 in this season, you're probably going to have a hard time stopping all of their avenues to scoring, to defend, wherever it may be. Like, you look at the difference between the top 8 and the rest of the league. It was a stark contrast. So that only means going into this final series, we talked about how important this season is to be able to obtain a top 4 double chance going into a final series where these top 8 teams, they just don't lose against anyone outside of the 8. I think it was Port Adelaide beating Gold Coast, and there was maybe 2 other games where a side out of the finals beat a side within the finals. And I think another one would have been Geelong versus Carlton very early on in the season at the G. So they're all going to present their own issues. The result couldn't have worked more to our favour. Because you had the away side in the Gold Coast Freo game winning, that being Gold Coast. They're travelling all the way from Perth to Gold Coast, and then Gold Coast may have to travel back to Victoria if they get the win. And then on the other side of the, with regards to the other side of the conversation with regards to Brisbane, that's another interstate team that would have to come back to the G for a prelim final after travelling from Brisbane to Melbourne, back to Brisbane, and potentially back to Melbourne again. Now, that's something they're a little bit more acquainted with, but certainly Gold Coast would be dealing with some troubles with the travel that they would have to they are going through to get to the point to where they want to be, and that's probably the prelim final. And the other point is, well, experience, and obvious experience matters, as we saw against Adelaide, Collingwood being one of the most experienced sides, Geelong being one of the more experienced sides, although Brisbane aren't too far off that either. you see that what the experience is worth when you rebrand the next 4 games after the home and away season and look at that as a team and go, this is like the language has been pretty consistent. It's a new season. It's a new look. It's completely different. And then you slap a cheeky 10 coaches votes on Darcy Moore for the performance he had. Like, where does that come from? So it's clearly it's just a reset. It's wear this, wear that. We're going to show you, and that's what they did, and they executed their game plan against the Crows. So credit there, but not trying to digress. Have I answered the question about do I want Brisbane or do I want Gold Coast? I'm painting the picture for you guys. I've got a Venn diagram? Things, yeah, pros here, cons there, and shit in the middle, right? So where else are we at? So we talk about experience, Gold Coast not having a lot of that, but another theme that's been talked about this year about our players is sometimes we've been begging for younger players to be a part of this side because they're the ones willing to take more risks through the corridor. If we really want to talk specifically about young players who are courageous and don't understand the risk of these difficult decisions to go through the middle, that was our thing with our young players and looking for more courage. These Gold Coast players, they're a young side, they're inexperienced. So if they were to make it to the prelim, who knows? Like, do they thrive in that because they're not truly able to assess the risk that comes with going to the G in a prelim final. They've got nothing to lose. They're young, wild and free. As who's that guy? Is it Wiz Khalifa? I think that's the song he sings. So there's that, but then there's the Brisbane side who are wise. They've won a flag. They've been there, done that. There's so many ways to paint this picture, isn't there? Like, I'm probably not going to give you an answer, but I feel like some of you will be pissy if I don't. After stretching out this subject much longer than it needed to be, I'm going to say I want Gold Coast. No. I don't know. Chat, who do we want? I'm just. My eyes are on chat right now. Who do we want? Gold Coast or Brisbane? Would rather play our Lions a bit wounded. Benny, appreciate you, brother. Thanks for the 10. Welcome. I'm calling the season off. Hand the cup out now. Experts think Geelong have it in the bag. Chris Scott is the best thing ever to grace the earth. Why bother rocking up, right? Congrats, Cats. Yeah, it's the same old shit, isn't it, in the mainstream media cycle? Everyone's talking about how breathtaking Collingwood's performance was against Adelaide, and then 24 hours later, you get that performance from Geelong, and then it's the hottest thing going around. It's more recent than that Thursday night game. Yeah, so you obviously, because it's new, it's sexy. Geelong beat Brisbane, the premiership, the reigning premiers. Obviously, they're just going to lean on that. Going into it, they were questioning Geelong when it came to their run going into it. They were talking about their run's been a bit too soft. It's gonna be Adelaide. It's gonna be Brisbane. It's gonna be this. It's gonna be that. And now they're all on the Geelong hype train. So, anyways, we'll stay the course. We will stay the course, won't we? Teresa, thanks to 2. How did we get a novel for the answer? That I suppose that is my hidden talent, trying to make what do they say? You give me an inch, I'll take a mile. And I think when you guys give me a topic, particularly in a week where we don't have much news, this is going to be a pretty heavy fan-driven week in the live stream. So I'm pressing record, and the first thing that comes to my mind, I'm stretching it as much as I can. But what are you guys saying? What are we saying? Brisbane or Gold Coast? We beat either, but I'd rather lose to Gold Coast. To see them in a grand final would be much more exciting for the competition than, say, Brisbane or versus Geelong. Yeah, I'm not there yet, Jared. I'm not there to think about who I'd rather lose to. I don't want to lose. We can worry about if we happen to lose the prelim, then maybe a couple of days before the grand final, maybe then I'll just make my mind up about who I want to win the flag. This type of season, I feel like the AFL would like Collingwood to be part of it. This season kind of reminds me of, at the moment, 2019. So you got Geelong, who are doing their thing, i.e. or brackets Richmond back in 2019. Prelim final, we could be coming up against a Gold Coast, which kind of stinks like a GWS in that year. And then the last thing the AFL would want, the last thing we would want, is a Gold Coast Geelong grand final, because I think we all know how that would pan out. History suggests. Gold Coast any day, they will shit their pants at the G for a prelim. 90,000 Pies fans, and they're all inexperienced. Yeah, I don't know. Something about Gold Coast just tells me they've just got... I get it. It's the facts are the facts. They're kids, inexperienced. They've never played in front of 90,000 at the G. Who's to say they don't embrace that? Who's to say? Who's to say that this doesn't just give them a feeling that they've never experienced before, and it works their way? They come out the gates and they kick 2 or 3. Anyways, I don't want to go that far into it. I'm just saying, I think it goes both ways. Experience is handy, but going in and not knowing what to expect could work out in your favor. It really could, especially if you've already had back-to-back finals wins. The belief is there. I think it's a little bit different. Adelaide being inexperienced, the number one side, there's a lot of pressure on the Adelaide side. They are inexperienced. They don't have finals wins under their belt. Whereas you come across a Gold Coast side who have gone to Fremantle. Do they have nothing to lose? I don't know if they had nothing to lose. They should have probably been top 4 before they choked Port Adelaide game. But the pressure isn't the same for them as it is in Adelaide. They beat Fremantle in scintillating fashion, and now they're going to go back to Brisbane, playing a Q clash. If they win that, they beat the reigning premiers. They have momentum. They have momentum, and that belief is real by the time you get to a prelim. I'm just saying. I'm not trying to spoil anyone's party here. This year is hard to tip the semis. So often the losing qualifying teams both win the finals. How consistent is that? Don't forget, we nearly beat them in one quarter with no De Goey. It's true. That's true. That's something to factor in. De Goey at the moment is unbelievable. Maddie's got tickets to Brisbane Gold Coast. You'll be providing us a scouting report then, won't you? How are you, mate? Hope you're good. What else have we got? You want Adelaide to win everything so we can face them in the grand. I'm quite over Adelaide at this point, but once again, whoever we have to beat to get that elusive 17 flag, I'll take it. I'll take it, lad. Someone said something about Brody Myercheck. Let me see. Can't see it. Maybe it's gone. Interesting. Okay. Collingwood versus Hawthorn. Now, that's a scary predicament just because they are well and truly our biggest bogey side in the last 20 years. So that's a little bit scary. But, I mean, you're going to face your boogeyman at some point. Tim Van Coilenberg, welcome. How are you? Do you worry at all that the week off doesn't suit us for continuity? I mean, you take it for sure, but every team likes momentum. Not trying to be negative. It's a fair conversation. I'd say this late into the year, I would assume that our older bodies greatly appreciate some time off. It's finals footy, so it's different. It's you're gonna watch two teams bash each other in the first ever Q clash in a finals. Like, it just screams out a UFC, a heavyweight bout in a UFC clash. Like, that's what it is to me. And then after Collingwood playing a pretty heated game against Adelaide in Adelaide, a lot of chip eggs were put into that basket mentally. I think you get some time to recalibrate, sort of get back to baseline as far as the emotions are concerned. And then you get some time over the course of the weekend to do your scouting, sit back, relax, and enjoy what we're going to see in these two semi-finals. What's the other one? It's Hawthorn and Adelaide and Hawthorn. So do we know it's Friday night and Saturday night, isn't it? Mick Sucker, I hope you're well, brother. I hope you're good. Mr. Mick. Jared, never off topic, my friend. Pendles has never finished lower than 6 in the Copeland. Do you see 5-6 players finishing above him this year? That is a great question. And once again, in a week where there's not a lot of news and we're relying on people like you in the chat, that is a cracker question. So, what do we think? If we got... Maybe I'll share screen. 1 second. Here. Okay. If we go... Maybe I'll grab a notepad or something. All right, well, let's talk notes. So I'm not going to look at chat for a second. I'm going to say, number 1, DC will be ahead of Pendles. Nick Dacos will be ahead of Pendles. All right, so this is where... Jamie Elliott should be ahead of Pendles. Or look, when I say ahead of Pendles, I think he'll be around this mark. I think he will be top 6, really. Maybe you throw in... Still side bottom had a bit of a down second half of his year, but so did most players. Be hard pressed not to... But Jeremy Howe missed games, so I think Pendles is in this for sure. I think Pendles might be number 4. Pendles number 4... Jeremy Howe, number 5, and then maybe Steele side bottom. What do we think about that? Is there someone I've missed completely here, or... Is there someone I've missed completely here? Let's have a look. Catch up to chat. Josh? Oh, shit. Okay, well, suppose we just do that. Josh Dacos. And Josh will probably finish high. If we wanted to order it, do we go like... Do we do this? Do we do this? Bang. Maybe we do something like this. Bang. Jamie Elliott. Pendles? Is that fair? I think that's pretty good. I'm pretty happy with DC. Will DC win it? I would love to see DC walk away with the Copeland Trophy at the end of this season. You know what? I tell you who wouldn't be too far off it. This bloke. Surely, you reckon Brazzy's a smoky for a top 6 finish? Shooter robbed? Maybe he wins the Darren... I reckon Shooter's the type of player who'll win the Darren Mullane Club Trophy, I think. Ela remani costo puisera malaka. Alex, welcome. Is there a reason why Elliott's contract may have not been signed? Should we be worried? So, tabled is a 2-year contract offer for Jamie Elliott at this point. I don't think he's happy with the dollar amount that is attached to those 2 years. I think that this is a contract negotiation that will be finalized and it will have an outcome at the end of this season. If you ask me what I think, I'm hopeful that he re-signs at whatever amount it is. Maybe we re-evaluate given the season he's had and the finals game he's already had. I think there's that. And that might be at the expense of a Brody Mychek having to move on somewhere else for more money. And I'm willing to live with that. I love what Brody Mychek does for the club, but he's another player who's in his 30s. You look at, okay, who do we have in that demographic or in that position profile that is begging for an opportunity and we can accommodate for? I think that's Charlie West. I think Charlie West He won't be Brody Myercheck in 2026, but he could definitely be somebody who has kicks. I don't see any reason why Charlie West can't kick 25, 30 goals next season at AFL level if he gets his body right, has another big off season going into a preseason. If he starts from the get-go, he can be a Cal Shadir, a Logan Morris. I say this time and again. So I think that's what it is. Black and White United, Yasu Andreas. Bye, checkers. Love you, mate, but time to go. We're going to go after a big forward in 12 months, plus West comes in. So there's that as well, the fact that we're targeting players like a Ben King and whatnot. And if next year we have to play a bit smaller on a forward line, that actually, guys, think about it. If we get rid of Brody Myercheck, you know what will happen? I think we give Mason Cox another contract. We've kept DC, and it'll go back to 22, 23 type of vibe where McStay we need him to be back in the picture next year if Myercheck doesn't sign on. This is just hypotheticals, of course. McStay plays as the main guy. He's a stay-at-home forward. He plays forward full time, like we all think he should be now after what we've seen this season. Myercheck's gone. Westy comes in as number 2. Membry is at third key tall. And then you got Mason Cox and DC rotating like they were in 22, 23, where we saw more Darcy Cameron in the forward line. Like we saw more Darcy Cameron in the forward line for the Adelaide game. So I think that's where we could just bite the bullet, where we don't have to have a 40-plus goal forward in a Brody Myercheck. I think we can spread the goal tally out with a Jamie Elliott, with a Bobby Hill, with a Charlie West, with a Membry, with the McStay who plays full-time forward, with the Mason Cox, with the Darcy Cameron. What do you think? What do you think about that? Oh, Josh Jacobs. The good news is Billy Frampton is signed till next year. According to Ben Cotton from Fox Footy, Billy Frampton is contracted through till 2026, not 2025 as listed elsewhere. Did he hit like a trigger clause or something? Because that was a conversation we had yesterday, and we were worried as to why Billy Frampton hasn't signed on yet. So if you look online, you go Billy Frampton contract. We go like Footy Wire at a contract 2025. I mean, who's Billy Cotton? I mean, was it Ben Cotton? Interesting. No, I'm not. Myercheck is a great player, and I rated his game against Adelaide. I rated it enough. Had he kicked straighter, we'd be talking more about the game Brody Myercheck had. But you put it all aside, it almost sounds like it's one or the other at this point between Jamie Elliott and Brody Myercheck. And I think, given where we're at with the players available, I think Charlie West is more ready than Will Hayes. Outside of that, do we have any AFL listed small forwards who are there, or medium-sized forwards, or small forwards who can play like Jamie Elliott? Will Hayes is a small forward, but he cannot mark aerially like a Jamie Elliott. So the reality is we don't have anyone that can get anywhere near replicating the type of player that Jamie Elliott is. Brody Myercheck, guys, when Charlie West first came in and we saw him at training, what did we say? He just looks like a baby Brody Myercheck. Stocky quads or stocky body and similar size. So plays with great tenacity. I think that's a player we can gamble on next year. Who knows? Who knows what we do in the off season? Maybe stranger things have happened. Say we get a defender and then we put Jeremy Howe forward. Reef McInnes, I saw in a chat. Maybe Reef goes back in the forward line after putting some size on throughout his ACL rehab. Like there's many ways to go about this, you know? Harvey Harrison, yeah. Harvey Harrison is someone that will be important, but once again, I don't think you want to be hinging your hopes on a Harvey Harrison post ACL. I think that extra year or two with Jamie under the tutelage of Jamie Elliott while he gets back into form, I think that's the route we go. Yep. Is Zach McCarthy a lock for us? Absolutely. Zach McCarthy was he'll probably be a first round draft pick this year, so we'll match that bid. And while he might not be ready made, he's going to be someone who can play that ruck forward role quite well, perhaps centre half forward exclusively, depending on how we see fit. Let's concentrate on this year, says Dim Sim. Lift. Noah Howes is ahead of Charlie West in development. So there's another player that slipped my mind for a moment. Noah Howes has had a good year in the VFL. His body is big-bodied as well. I mean, take your pick. Take your pick. I think there's enough depth there to, like I said, to consider moving on Brody Myercheck for the sake of being able to keep Jamie Elliott. Noah Howes is ahead of Charlie West in development. Is he ahead of him in development, though? I'd say it's close. I think Charlie West probably possesses more weapons than Noah Howes, but it's close. It's close. We have to bear in mind Noah Howes is a year is a year older. It's only just a year, but in your formative years in the system, an extra year matters. Sash says, or Sash is asking, can you see Noah Howes as a defender? Look, it all comes down to, it's a matter of whether he actually gets tried in training as a defender. I don't know about his junior career. I don't know if he's played in the back line before. I'm sure when your key position as a junior, you're tried in on both ends of the ground. So, look, if the need is there, I mean, maybe it could be any key position players can adapt to either side of the ground reasonably well, generally speaking. It's just a matter of, do we need a ready-made defender, or why are we thinking about Noah Howes as a potential defender? We're thinking about Noah Howes as a potential defender, full-time AFL player for 2-3 years down the line, or are we looking at, what's the intent behind that? You got Ilaru Smith, who came in as a ruck, and he's played pretty much exclusively as a fullback in the VFL for the most part of this year. So, yeah, we're definitely not leaving any stone unturned when it comes to that key defender absence. We must remember that there's a Reef McInnes there who was a bit of an experiment, and we'll learn more about him in 2026 as to where his career will go, where it will trend, what position, whether it is a long fruitful career, or if, I mean, 2 years. Were you guys surprised about the 2-year contract extension for Reef? I mean, I was a big fan of him in 2024 as a forward. I thought his goal to game ratio was quite exceptional for the limited time that he had, and considering he was in and out of the side, he was made to be the sub. I really rated Reef as that third key forward at times, and then I don't know. Like, I just think to offer 2 years for a good preseason and doing an ACI, I think that's just a bit. It's a little bit desperate to me when you offer someone who hasn't shown much in that position you're trying him in for an extra 2 years when he was on the precipice of being delisted at the end of 2024. I would have been okay with a 1-year contract extension. I'm not saying it's not going to work out. I want it to work out. I'm not saying he's a horrible defender. I just don't think we saw enough, particularly at competitive match level. So I can appreciate the faith, but when you have a list squeeze and you're wanting to bring in potentially some younger players, there's players from our draft in the last 4 or 5 years in that first round section haven't done entirely well. We think about Finlay McRae, you include Reef McInnes in there, you include TJ, who hasn't had an impact yet. You got Di Matteo, who's showing some signs. Jacob Ryan, who's another player who might or should get a look next year. We'll know more about that. Ah, there you go. Noah Howes did get trialled in defense in the practice match, apparently. It's in the match recap article. My bad. My bad. Sorry, I missed that. Silly of me, but there you go. Okay, so look, who knows? Who knows? I just said before, Collingwood will leave no stone unturned to get a good occupant in that key defender position, especially after losing out to St Kilda with the race to Jack Silvani, and it is what it is. Benny Zero says, can see Harvey Harrison being a bulkier, stronger side bottom. Come on. We can't be comparing Harvey Harrison to Still Sidebottom right now, are we? Come on, Benny. Still Sidebottom's he's a superstar. So maybe not quite there yet. Checkers in defense, not going to happen, Andreas. I just don't think it's going to happen, man. If it didn't happen this year, it won't happen next year, I would say. And I imagine if you're getting money to go elsewhere to kick goals for someone, I think you'd take that over taking less money and playing in the back line for your existing club. I see Harvey Harrison going into the McCreary role, and McCreary goes to 75% mid. Yeah, well, I can only imagine that when Harvey Harrison comes back into the side, he will make his way in slowly through the sub position, play as a high half forward. He played a lot of wing as well, so yeah, I think that's where his position will start first, and yeah. Just saw next year they're making it last touch out of bounds, no matter the circumstance. It is a free to the other side. No one going to play on the boundary anymore. How do I feel about that? I don't know. A lot of change. It's one of those sports that just continue to evolve, whether it be for better or worse. I don't know. It's a bit sus, but it is what it is. Michael asked, do we think Howes and West are realistic prospects? Great question. I'm not sure about Noah Howes just yet. He's shown good signs, but I think Charlie West, for me, Charlie West is as a young adult. He shows me confidence. He shows me composure. He shows me clutch, kicking a goal after the siren. He shows me energy. He shows me temperance. He shows me contentness. Like these are important traits in a player that you want to see early in their career. You might not see all of that in a Finlay McRae. You might not see all of that in a Ed Allen, Jacob Ryan, TJ. But I don't know. It just feels like Charlie West has this perfect blend of traits that you desire in a young player. So I think Charlie West is a genuine prospect. Still not sure about Noah Howes right now. It's only last touch between the 50s. I don't mind it. I don't know. We'll see. Rick is asking, who are you taking out for Harvey Harrison? The problem is you have to figure out who's not going to be in the side next year, who's going to be retired, who's going to get delisted, who's going to be traded in, who's going to be traded out. But in saying that, Rick, if we lose Brody Myercheck, it allows space for another mid-forward, wing-forward to roll through that position. So I think, if anything, although it's not like for like, you go Brody Myercheck out, you go Harvey Harrison in, you get DC and Mason Cox rotating through ruck and forward line. And I think that's, like I said 10 minutes ago, if we don't keep Myercheck, you keep Mason Cox. And that allows Darcy Cameron to roll forward more. And that gives us an extra year just to bleed Charlie West in and not be overly dependent on him, because we'll have DC in there at times, Mason Cox in there at times. McStave will be the go-to guy. Membry will keep doing what he's doing this year. Is Bobby Dazzler coming back? I hope so. We'll see. Will we see another Nathan Murphy type in the near future? Mate, beats me this question. It's not easy. Maybe Reeve can be that. They're a similar height. Did you know that? Reeve and Nathan Murphy. Murphy was not overly tall. Murphy was like, I think he was like my height. Let me check. Height. Nathan Murphy, 192. What's that? Is that like 6'3"? 6'4". Same height as me. So Like, we're looking for this key defender, but Murphy was not, he wasn't exactly key defender height. He was like on the lower end of that spectrum. He's not Darcy Moore 6'6", you know? Michael says, McCreary can't play much mid as he's a power athlete and will break down. See Cyril Rio. It's a good point. I think he's probably too powerful for his own good, and Jordan De Goey has been that to a certain extent. I think as far as power athletes are concerned, say you got, this might sound a bit harsh, but you got Scott Pendlebury here. You got, who's in the middle? Who's in the middle? If there's four tiers to power athletes in our club, you probably put Scott Pendlebury at the bottom just because of age. It's an easy one. And then maybe you got like a Braden Maynard. Is that... Nah, that's not it, is it? Maybe Dan Houston? I don't know. Now I'm cooking myself. I'm going to say, yeah, look, Dan Houston, Braden Maynard here, and then you got Jordan De Goey, second tier, and then top tier is Beau McCreary. Those top tier players. And then probably between, like, Jordan De Goey's a power athlete as well, but Nick Dacos in another spectrum is like a really, I don't know how to categorize like the difference between a Jordan De Goey and a Nick Dacos, because Nick Dacos is explosive, but is that the same as being powerful? Nick Dacos, his repeat efforts are incredible. So power, the balance, okay, the balance between power, endurance, Nick Dacos is number one at the club. Beau is so powerful that his endurance and his ability to withstand those rigors of being a midfield player is probably never going to be there to be a full-time mid. Jordan De Goey is probably just at where he needs to be, both power and endurance wise, to give him as much, to allow him to play as much midfield as he normally does. But sometimes he does go a little bit too wayward and ends up sustaining injuries, like soft tissue injuries that he has endured over the last couple of years. So how'd I go there? That makes sense? Let me catch up to some of the comments. If Oleg is delisted, I hope the club keeps him as a VFL player and gives him a job at the club. I think he's a shoo-in for an opportunity as some sort of role within the club. Bobby's kids seem to be back in Melbourne. He might not seek a trade to West Australia. I'm happy for him. All right, Stewie, going to stir the pot. I believe Stephen May is available, short-term contract. As much of a hothead prick he is, a good lockdown defender. I said those are the type of players you look at if we don't get Jack Silvani. And I don't know. I personally can't see Stephen May coming into the club after the rivalry he created with us and the things he's said. But when you are trying to extend your career and be a part of a club that is within a premiership window, maybe you let leave all of that in the past. So I can see that. But he's definitely in that pool of players that we'd be looking at had we not secured the services of Jack Silvani, and that's what's happened. So now we have to look at players like Stephen May. And there's a bunch of delisted players who we could look at, but remember, they're delisted for a reason. So let's not make these guys out as if they're God's gift. Like there's probably a world where we're going to have to give up some draft picks. Now it could be if we can find picks in the 30s, 40s, and 50s to make a deal work for these players, but also how in contract are they? Like are they out of contract next year or in 2 years' time, 3 years' time? Like there's so many things to figure out to see if we can find some suitors who would like to come to Collingwood as a key defender. Jake Platt says, I have concerns about the medium-term success of the club. We have stacked up for the immediate success, but I don't think we have a heap of depth going through our aging list, and our aging list may drop away quick. Jake, at the end of the day, if you can win one flag, 2 flags, and then you go into a rebuild, you just have to wear that. Like, there are clubs who are constantly rebuilding, who are constantly having to go to the draft, and they still don't have a flag. So if we win 2 flags, we've won a flag in 23. We had a grand final opportunity in 2018. Like, maybe there is a rebuild around the corner. Maybe. And if there is, you know what? I think a flag in 23 can warrant it. We can take solace in that. If we win another flag this year, bloody hell, send us into a rebuild for, I don't want to say how many years, but send us into a rebuild and we'll deal with it, because we've gotten 2 flags potentially 2 flags out of 3 grand final potential 3 grand final appearances in the last 5 years, because we doubled down on our list. But then you can look at clubs like Geelong, who have found a way to stay relevant for 10, 15, 20, 25 years. We've been that as well. But Geelong have taken it to a whole new level with their age profile, and they're showing us the way. So we have a perfect blueprint to ensure that we stay where we need to be. Now, do they have young superstars in Max Holmes and Bailey Smith? We've got young superstars in Nick Dacos and Josh Dacos. So I don't think there's like any reason to be overly concerned about our medium-term success. I think great clubs find ways to stay relevant regardless of age profile. Our list management has been good for as long as I can remember. So don't stress. I don't stress too much on that. Just enjoy the moment now. Why are you casting your mind into the future when we're prelim bound? Come on, lift. May's finished. His knees have locked up. I mean, he looks pretty good against us. He looked pretty good against us in round 23. Jared O says, another one for you. Pendles needs 5 Brownlow votes to move into 4th all-time votes. Do you see him getting 5 votes this year? Any best on rounds? Absolutely. Well, for one, it's Scott Pendlebury. So Scott Pendlebury always polls well. He's got the reputation, so that helps him. Let's have a look here. Absolutely. I think Pendlebury could probably rack up, off the top of my head, 10 votes this year. Let me have a look. Let's have a look. Pendlebury. So it's 5 votes to get into 4 all-time. He's gotten coaches' votes in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games. So we're looking at a West Coast game where he had 28 touches, kicked a goal, 8 score involvements. That could be 3 votes there. I mean, who else was impressive in that game? Nick Dacos will probably have a say. 34 touches, 1 goal, 9 score involvements. Okay, so at the very least, that's probably 2 votes for Pendles there. Collingwood versus Carlton. 29 touches, a goal assist, 7 tackles. I mean, they're numbers that put you into consideration for those votes, don't they? Who got the maximum coaches' votes? Lockie Schultz had 10 coaches' votes. Darcy Cameron, Josh Dacos. Like, players like Darcy Cameron and Josh Dacos, because of the position they play, they just probably won't poll that well. But when you look at it, okay, Josh Dacos, Pendlebury, Darcy Moore, like defenders, once again, they just don't really poll that well. I think there's a potential for yeah. So my answer is yes. I think Pendlebury's every chance to get 5 votes. I think, if I had to guess, right, I think there's about, I'd say there's a potential 6, 7, 8 votes lying in these games. Who knows? Will the Brownlow predictor tell us anything? How many votes are they predicting for Mr. Scott Pendlebury? So he could, they think he could poll as low as 1 and as high as 9. So he's been the second highest rated player once this season, and he's been in the top 5 7 times. So that tells you a bit of a story, doesn't it? There you go. Interesting. Hope you enjoyed that. Hopefully Sav, Rocker's kid, Anthony, yeah, I mean, plenty of father-sons. Love that. Absolutely agree. If we win this year plus the 2023 flag, then we've been very successful with our recruiting and training of draft picks. And you just live with that. What comes after that, fuck, you just live with it. And it helps as well being a destination club. Free agents want to come to clubs like Collingwood, and apparently they want to go to Geelong as well. So that helps us. Too anxious about the prelim rinks that settle, mate. We're not there yet. Don't stress. Enjoy the anxiety that the other four clubs will be feeling going into this week right now. Brisbane and Gold Coast, Adelaide and Hawthorn, they're all feeling it because, yeah, outside of Gold Coast, I feel like those other three teams feel like they, or maybe even Gold Coast, they all feel like they should be making the grand final. So there's a lot of anxiety for them to get through before they make it to the big prelim week. Collingwood have done well with delisted players. You look at Markov. We do well in the mid-season draft. Ned Long, delisted from Hawthorn. You got preseason supplementary picks like Lockie Sullivan, who's done well. Jordan Ruffhead, who maybe not delisted, but came over for peanuts. Billy Frampton was as good as delisted. Who else? Bunch of players, really. A bunch of players that we've just turned. Tim Membry delisted, but delisted because they didn't offer him the contract he wanted, so there was a contract there. Look, there does come a point in time though. You do have to buy into the draft, and it helps that we're being forced into the draft this year because of the father son in McGuan. There's an academy player in McCarthy who's a first round fancy. So we are, look, it's not top 10 talent, but take what you can get as long as we can dabble in the draft a little bit this year. It'll give us some sort of solace. John Noble, mid-season draft. Ash Johnson had some good time for us for maybe a season and a half. Ash Johnson was in a little bit of a purple patch. Yeah, we do well. Pendles all comes down to pain and injury for retirement, and down his quality will drop off without those two factors. Yeah, mate, he's just a gun. DC we got for a bag of chips. Who else? I mean, Tom Mitchell didn't cost us much either. Pendles always polls well in the Copeland. 6 votes the year before. He only 2 votes last year. I think he gets more than that this year. Des says, I think the medium-term concerns are silly, media hype, have a better look at the list, not to mention Pies will attract players. Thank you. But beyond all of that, let's say Collingwood do shit the bed after this year. We saw a flag. At the very least, we saw a flag. Okay? If it's a rebuild, it's a rebuild. We'll go through it. We'll go through that storm. But we got a flag. Not every club is able to say that. St Kilda, 2009, 2010, 2011, one of the most dominant sides you'll ever see, don't come out with the flag. Like, these teams, North Melbourne, just stuck at the bottom of the ladder. Essendon, stuck in mediocrity. Like, we've got a flag. We've got multiple flags in the last 20, 30 years. So, if all else fails, we have that to lean on, and we can take solace in that. But because we are Collingwood, because we have great list management, because we have a great culture, because we have great clubs, because we have great players, because we have people who want to play for Collingwood, I think we just I don't know how big how much we could possibly regress. I don't know. I think if you've got Nick Dacos in your side, I think everybody wants a piece of that. Everybody wants to be a part of that. That helps. Yeah, Jack Crisp, old mate Steak Knives. Will Parker, Category B rookie, who was touted as a first-round draft prospect in his draft year, so there's that as well. Yeah, I mean, you got Beau McCreary, who was a mature age recruit through the national draft. We talked about Ned Long through the mid-season draft. What a game he had against Adelaide. You got Lipinski, who looked tough as nails against Adelaide, came over for not a great deal either from the Doggies. Yeah. There you go. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, for what's been there's been no news today really when it comes to the Collingwood Football Club. So to be able to have a pretty enjoyable conversation, I appreciate you all. And we'll just do this again tomorrow, I guess. It'll be driven by you guys, so have your questions ready tomorrow. Maybe there's news, maybe there's not, but there will be Pies Presser. And until then, ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate you all. Go Pies.